Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the Cat AI webinars. And then we have our speaker for today, Bill Spencer, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Oh, thanks, Ashley. My name is Bill Spencer. I'm on the Copilot Studio engineering team, and I'm excited to present Copilot Studio and the use of agent templates so you can get started creating agents the easy way.
Awesome. Very excited, very lucky to have you. And then this is about Copilot Studio. So here are some just links for you to try out Copilot or Copilot Studio after the session if you're interested, and some resources on if you need skilling, guidance, or like a toolkit for Copilot. Again, this link will be in the chat. So without further ado, we're going to hop into build an agent with Copilot agent templates.
Great. Yeah, I'm taking control. So
Love it.
thank you very much, Ashley. Again, my name's Bill Spencer. I work on the Microsoft Copilot Studio engineering team. Today, we're going to show you how to build your first AI agent the easy way using Copilot Studio and agent templates. Feel free to share this presentation with your colleagues who are maybe new to agent building, because I wanted to make sure to start at the ground floor and build up so that anyone can create agents. So Copilot is the UI for AI in Microsoft 365. Think of Copilot as the front door to AI in your organization. It's where everyone can tap into AI to get work done faster. Copilot Studio, the second item there in the middle of the slide, is an application to create AI agents for Copilot. Now, a light version is built right into Copilot Chat. And as you'll see, it's easy for anyone to create an agent tailored to their job using Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio also comes with examples of agents that we call templates. And there are over 20 of these available today. So it's likely that there is one you'll be interested in using. If you're going through the process of creating an agent, you might as well take a look to see if there's an agent that does something similar. And these templates come with the detailed instructions, so anyone can use them and customize them for their environment and for their task. And most importantly, all of this is done safely using the Copilot control system at the bottom of the slide. It provides the governance, security, and compliance that enterprises need. Your IT department provides guardrails while you have the freedom to innovate. Now, Copilot is super useful on its own. So that's the square, the darker square, to help answer your questions and help you get your work done. But you can be even more productive using agents on top of Copilot. And I think of this in an analogy similar to the way Excel and macros work. So an Excel spreadsheet is super useful on its own. You don't need to use macros. But if you know how to use some macros, you can avoid a lot of repetitive work, and there's a lot of power to those macros, making Excel even more useful. Similarly, agents make Copilot more useful to save you time and to avoid repetitive tasks. And the best part is, creating agents using Copilot Studio is even easier than writing Excel macros, because you use plain English to instruct your agent. You can type in the same words explaining a task as you would to a colleague. So what exactly are agents and how do they work? Think of agents as your AI assistants. Just as you may explain a task to, say, a summer intern, you can explain a task to Copilot Studio, giving it the context, the knowledge, and the steps to complete a task so it can operate to help you get your job done. Now, there's a few common types of agents ranging from the simple on the left to advanced on the right. The most basic agent is a retrieval agent, and these are rules-based, predictable, great for answering questions. Think of an HR FAQ agent that can instantly answer a colleague's questions about your organization's HR policies. Next, we move up the ladder to task agents. These are tied directly to workflows or processes. You specify the knowledge, the rules, and the steps for the agent to take. The agent's job is to handle repetitive tasks, freeing up your time for higher value work. So for example, an accounts payable agent can automatically process invoices. And finally, at the end, we have autonomous agents. These are the most advanced. They can adapt and even learn from how they operate. So instead of following fixed rules, they respond dynamically to changing conditions without constant human input. So imagine a risk analysis agent at a bank that models scenarios real time as market conditions change. Today, I'll show an example of building a retrieval agent, and then I have a colleague who is going to show how to build a task agent. With Copilot, agent creation isn't just for developers, it's for everyone. We give you a spectrum of tools to build agents, from no code, that's no programming is required, to low code, all the way up to professional or pro code. So anyone can start building agents where they are and then scale up as their experience and their needs grow. The easiest tool is the light version of Copilot Studio built right into Copilot Chat. And my demos will use that light version. It requires no coding, and you use the natural language to program the agent. The full version of Copilot Studio offers the additional option of using low-code programming to build agents. So for example, if an agent needs to update ServiceNow or some other SaaS application, that it requires low-code programming in Copilot Studio. And finally, for those who prefer the power of developing agents using ProCode, they can use either Copilot Studio or Azure AI Foundry. And today we're going to focus on Copilot Studio, the left box there, Copilot Studio Lite. Okay, so let's get started using Copilot Studio Lite to build your first agent. Okay, switching over to my browser, I am showing you a couple ways to get to Copilot. So from the general Microsoft 365.cloud.microsoft URL, I can navigate to M365 Copilot here by clicking on the chat directly, opening using this navigation icon on the far left upper corner. Clicking on Microsoft 365 Copilot, I get into Copilot Chat. The other way, perhaps more convenient, depending on how your IT department has pinned Copilot and M365 Copilot here on my taskbar. Copilot is great. It reasons over all the information available on the web, so it can answer a wide variety of questions. However, I prefer to have the full power of M365 Copilot, which includes not only all the information available on the web to reason over, but also using the work context of all the information I have available to me in Microsoft 365. So this includes my Outlook emails, Teams conversations and documents, my SharePoint documents, everything I have access to, I can access here using the work context. Now, if I want to find information using only the web context for Copilot to reason over, I can click on this control at the top right here on web. And that's useful if, for example, I'm doing something very consumer focused and want to get information that does not include my work context. Going across the top of the screen, I have GPT-5, the latest and most advanced model, turned on. If I prefer previous models, I can turn that off by clicking on this button. And you'll note that this shipped in Microsoft 365 Copilot on the same day that GPT-5 was available in ChatGPT. So you're getting the latest models on Microsoft 365 Copilot. I have this control, and I'll explain how memory works in a moment. But if I want to create a temporary chat that is not saved in memory, I can do that here. Say, for example, I'm doing a consumer-oriented search and I don't want that to save context. Perhaps I'm doing something for a colleague that is not part of my regular context. I can create that chat using temporary chat, and that will not be saved in my memory by default. My IT organization has enterprise data protection turned on, which means the information that I'm providing to Copilot stays within my tenant. It doesn't go, and all of the controls that my IT department is applying are an additional level of security and safety. And then under this ellipsis or dot, dot, dot on the far right upper corner, I can manage in settings the memory. And what's great about Copilot Memory is it saves me time. I don't need to repeat similar things. So for example, It has the context on where I work, my preference for weather or currency in different formats, context on the particular job that I have, so that I don't need to repeat that when I'm asking Copilot for help. It saves that information and I can turn it on and off right here, turning it on. So it hasn't captured any memories yet because that was turned off by default, but I've now turned it on and you will see those over time. I can also save additional information about my work profile here. All right, so you know that you have Microsoft 365 Copilot because you'll see this work and web context, and you'll also have the ability to create an agent. So this is Copilot Studio Lite that's embedded right here in Copilot Chat. I'm going to click on that in a moment, but first I'm going to look at all agents so we can see the agent store, and I can do a search for various agents here. The most popular of these is Customer Insights. I can click on that and get additional information on that here. So these agents that are also templates are available to you under all agents. And you'll see these agents and their full description and icons as built by Microsoft. I can see the agents built and shared by my organization, and I can even see agents built by my team. And let me scroll down a little further. I can see third-party agents that have been created by Atlassian, like Jira, Asana, Monday.com. Scrolling further down, I can see the ServiceNow agent, Mural, etc. So quite a few different agents are available here. It depends on what your IT department has given you access to, but you get a sense for what is the default. So clicking on Create Agent, I can choose the Microsoft published Customer Insights agent as my template. And I can see under description some aspects of it, the name, icon, description. But let me click here on to configure to customize this agent. And I can customize it by changing the icon, by changing the name, say adding to. I can change the description, and note the description is used not only by people, but also in a multi-agent scenario for an agent to look at the description. So descriptions are an important aspect of any agent. And then looking at the instructions, I can see it has several sections, the purpose, and notice it's just using natural language. Just as you might start with some new colleague, say a summer intern, and you're describing their role, the skills that are required for the job, and then general guidelines. As a retrieval agent, this is providing the very simple instructions for answering questions. Actually, I'm going to make a customization here. It says the top 5 products or services. I'm going to change that to 3 while we're in skills. And I could change other aspects of these instructions as well. Scrolling down to knowledge, I am looking at what information I can use, and I am going to choose enterprise websites, and I will choose Salesforce as additional knowledge that I'm adding to this agent. Now, by default, it has turned off the ability to create charts, but I'm going to make some charts around stock price. And then it has some suggested prompts, and I'm going to go with these prompts, but I could here click to add a suggested prompt, say, for example, around stock price. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to jump right into going from the Describe tab to the Configure tab and onto the Try It tab. And I'm going to ask, say I'm a Microsoft vendor, please provide customer insights. So it is running a very specific agent now based on the instructions, the knowledge I gave it, and the skills I gave it. So for example, charting. And you'll notice that it is coming back with the top 3 products or services instead of 5, which was the default in the agent. And it provides some details about Microsoft, key priorities, the main business initiatives, the senior leadership, main competitors, current initiatives, industry trends, It has some information about stock price, but I'm going to chart Microsoft stock for past 5 years as an example. That might be a useful thing to have. And because I turned on the Excel charting capability, it is providing this additional stock price on Microsoft stock performance over the past 5 years. So a super useful agent that I've taken the template, I've customized it, I've been specific about aspects of the instructions, like the 3 product areas. I've turned on the capabilities like charting, and I've specified the knowledge sources. So for example, pulling from my Salesforce or some other CRM that might be available to me internally. And these are the results. So I can now create that agent. The Customer Insights agent is an example of using templates in the Create Agent access to Copilot Studio Lite in order to create, in this case, a retrieval agent. In a moment, with Kanika's help, we'll show you how to create a task agent using agent templates in a website that has more instructions than are available by default under the All Agents agent store built into Microsoft 365 Copilot. Thank you. Okay, so that was clipped pretty tight because I wanted to save time. And I moved a little quickly through the sources there. So I want to be clear that I left web on so that web was a source for some of that information. But I also added an internal source. The example was Salesforce. And I could have specified SharePoint shares that might have additional reports or PowerPoints. And I'll talk a little bit more about sources at the end, but I want to set up this next video because Kanika joined my team, and within 3 days, I had her share her screen and present this experience of my walking her through downloading a template and creating an agent from scratch using the PDF instead of the built-in agents. So there's a dozen or so agents that are built right in. Not all the agents in the agent store have the instructions that you can see as I did there, but the ones built by Microsoft do. And those are examples of these agent templates. We also have a separate website, as we'll talk about in this presentation, which you can access at aka.ms/Copilot agent templates. There'll be a slide in a moment. And that has the template PDF that Kanika downloads. So she's a really good sport for going through this, and you'll see how she steps through it with a little guidance from me. Thank you for joining, Kanika. If you're relatively new to Microsoft and new to building agents, thank you for sharing your screen. Now let's go about building an agent. To get right to our demo, we're going to look on the left rail where it says Create Agent. And this is the way to access the Microsoft Copilot Studio Lite experience. In order to see how these agents are built, there's an easy web page with samples, or we call them Copilot agent templates. Let's open up your browser. Okay. And go to aka.ms/Copilot agent templates. Thank you. And scrolling down, you can see there's quite a few agents. And you'll notice that in some cases, there's template guides and template documentation, Scrum Assistant template, job description, wellness productivity coach, product crafter, storytelling mentor, negotiation assistant, travel planner. So these are all examples of agents that you can build using these templates, which you can download. Now, those that have the example build instructions are the ones I'd like you to focus on, because those are the ones that have the instructions along the lines of what we are going to build right here with Kanika's help. All right, let's try the travel planner.
All right. Do you want me to download the overview?
Sure, let's download the example overview, and you might as well download the build instructions at the same time. And we'll look at both of these. Okay, so the travel planner, you can scroll through these slides because it goes through basically what we're going to walk through. You can see a demo of the product. It offers tailored travel planning and support for seamless travel experiences, reducing effort, minimizing distractions. All right, let's go to the next slide. And then we'll step through the configuration tab, the agent behavior, adding the organization data, etc. Go to the next slide. And the sample prompts, publishing the agent, sharing the agent, and using the agent. Great. So we're going to go through those steps. Let's go to your download tab and open the agent planner files. All right, so we can see the PDF with the instructions, and scrolling down, we'll see the instructions align with the tabs in the agent builder experience. Scrolling down a little further, we'll see the actual instructions. Okay, perfect. This is what we're looking for.
I can do a split screen, so.
Perfect. Thank you, Kanika. All right, so the new agent, Travel Planner, is the name. Then you can drop the description in. Now, you can always modify these, but as you build agents in the future, it's important to follow the model of a good description, because if you ever get in a scenario where an agent is calling another agent, it's going to look at the description in order to know when to call this agent. So descriptions are very important, not only for the users, but also for a multi-agent experience. And you'll notice the big instruction box. Let's grab these instructions and we can go through this. You'll see it highlights purpose. It provides general guidelines with things like maintaining a friendly and helpful tone, always begin asking about goals, offer suggestions even if the user hasn't directly asked for them regarding visas, local customs, tailor recommendations to the user's style of travel. So we can grab these and cut and paste them in, but I encourage anyone looking through this to take a good look at these instructions to better understand what this agent does. And if you are finding the agent not quite doing what you want, look at these instructions and modify them accordingly. Now, we've got some additional instructions with Skill 1, assisting with booking flights. Those are all part of the instructions, so we should grab all those. Let's scroll down until it gets to knowledge sources. There we go. All the way there. Perfect. Yep, and add those in. So I encourage people to take a good look at these and read these in detail. And I hope this is inspiring you to think about how you can be using Copilot for additional scenarios to help you speed up your job, to help you with tasks that can have a lot of these details, like we're highlighting here with Skill 1, Skill 2, to Skill, I believe, 6. Yeah. Okay, we've added all these. Now let's look at knowledge. Let's scroll down on the right side to see what the instructions are for knowledge. Scrolling down, there we go. Knowledge is an important area where you can customize. You may take that slider where it says only use specified sources. Could you click on the left side where it says see more +5 under knowledge? Yeah. So here's all the various sources that are available to Kanika. And we've got the DevOps Wiki, DevOps work items. We have custom connectors, enterprise websites, Media Wiki, a ServiceNow catalog, knowledge, and tickets. So those are all things that she could choose. For example, if in the future you were creating an agent that worked on help desk, you may want to have it just look at the ServiceNow catalog, ServiceNow knowledge, and ServiceNow tickets. So you were getting answers from Copilot specific to your organization. The real value of declarative agents is taking the great power of Copilot, which could be used for millions of different uses, and focusing it on a narrower set. So a declarative agent, that's what we're creating in this case, is narrowing Copilot to make it more useful. because instead of doing anything, in this case, it's specifically helping with travel planning. And then it has a series of prompts. Scrolling down, let's look at capabilities. Now, if you wanted to do any sort of charting or creation of images, you might want to turn on the ability to create documents, charts, and code, or create images. I don't believe in this scenario we are using any of those. And then there are suggested prompts. So let's cut and paste over just a couple of these. Let's do book a flight, and you can enter that title, and then you can put the message, help me find, there we go, and choose any of the other ones you want there and bring those over. Perfect. Okay. Again, you've got two tabs at the top. I think we're at the bottom of the tabs. We've got the Describe tab, which was some of our initial information in terms of the agent name. There's one last thing I want to do on the Describe tab. So let's just hit Describe. Okay, now see where under Details, it has an icon. Click on the little pen next to the icon. Great. And choose Upload an Icon. And going into Downloads, where it expanded your files. There we go. Open that. There we go. Cloud, that icon. Great. This is obviously something that you can customize to your heart's content, but I like to add. All right. So let's try this. We can try before we create. So let's click on Try, and we have Travel Planner. Let's click on Book a Flight. Let's try to fly from Seattle to Las Vegas.
That sounds great.
So let's see how this agent is working. It's following the instructions, travel dates, preferred time of day. Right, so let's say tomorrow morning on Delta, least expensive, and just me. Let's see what it says. Let's say looking for a hotel in Las Vegas tomorrow night. Perfect. So let's say on the strip from the movie The Hangover.
Caesar's Palace, good.
And it's really amazing to see how Copilot can pull information like being in Caesar Palace. Yes, let's check availability for the same room used in the movie.
I didn't include a tiger, but looks pretty good.
All right,
Oh,
so we can go right to Caesar's Palace, and we can book that Forum Tower Emperor Suite in the Octavius Tower Villas or whatever. So that's great. Okay, so this is an example of how you can easily test the agent that you built. So let's go ahead and click on Create. This is now something I'd like to have other people on my team try. Let's try going back to the home suite of Copilot Studio, so we can see where this agent shows up. Thank you. Looking at all agents. Oh, well, we can see travel planners right there. That's awesome. We've got a variety of things here: booking a flight, flight accommodations, create an itinerary. And you can see that your name is associated with the travel planner agent. Now let's share the agent. And to do that, let's go to Create Agent again. Click on My Agents. In the, there we go, perfect. Clicking on Travel Planner, click on Share, perfect. That's exactly what we want to do. Let's do a specific user. You can share it with me. So click on Specific Users, choose me, hit Apply. And that is how you can share with me. So now I have the permission to it. Let's look at the other sharing privileges. Under share, you could share it with anyone in your organization. Some people get nervous about agents. They are powerful, but the ones that we're talking about here, declarative agents, these are limiting the ability of Copilot. So instead of all sources, you're choosing specific sources of knowledge or information. Instead of all capabilities, you're limiting it specifically to focus on, in this case, travel planning. So I think about agents as I would think about sharing a spreadsheet. It has, in many cases, logic built into the spreadsheet, but they're self-contained in the way that they're not going out and causing trouble for the organization. When I was in finance, there were spreadsheets that were passed around that would help people build financial models. They were super helpful because they saved other people time. That's the way I think about these declarative agents. You're saving people time by sharing your agents for other people to test. But these can be limited to specific users or groups or teams or only to you. And you can share that by clicking on the specific users as Hanukkah just did and share it that way. I can come back into this experience and broaden the sharing either by choosing groups of users or teams, or perhaps this is something you'd like to put in production for the entire organization. And at that point, you could click on anyone in your organization. Eventually, over time, you can go through the process of deleting these. So let's click on cancel. Let's go through the process of deleting the travel planner agent, just so people can see the full process. And then we click on ... and click on delete. Perfect. Notice that the agent will be permanently deleted, not only from Hanukkah's view, but also for any of the users within the organization. So if for some reason you've created an agent and over time you have come up with something better, there's a new and improved way of getting something done, you can delete it for everyone with whom you might have shared that with by clicking on delete here. So go ahead and click delete. It just gives a good example of the whole life cycle of an agent. Downloading the instructions, going through the instructions to describe and then configure the agent, testing it yourself, sharing it with others to do a limited test, and then perhaps distribute it more broadly. But then also you can go and then delete the agent so that a new version or improved version can be used by everyone in the organization to avoid clutter or agent creep, if you will. So Kanika, any questions before we wrap up?
This has been great, Bill. Thanks for walking me through this experience. And I'm excited now. I'm going to play with this tool and create more agents to enhance productivity.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to leave this slide for folks to read, but I, stepped through all agents, selected an agent built by Microsoft because those come with the instructions. Then I went into the create agent link and customized it. Then I guided Kanika through similar process, but in this case, pulling down the PDF from aka.ms/Copilot agent templates. There's roughly 12 or so that are available under the built by Microsoft in the all agents section of Copilot Chat. And then there's another 16 or so up on aka.ms/Copilot agent templates. And she used the cut and paste method, went through the whole life cycle of trying it, creating it, publishing, if you will, sharing it out to others, and then deleting it. And there's more capabilities that IT departments can use to manage those agents, approving who gets access to all agents. And there's a lot coming in terms of the governance of agents, but it's a great capability. And I think creating an atmosphere where people are rewarded for innovating and sharing how they're using AI to save time is a wonderful way to take advantage of Copilot. So I'm going to talk now about agent design and best practices. The agent templates that we just reviewed are helpful because they follow these three fundamental building blocks of agents. In my experience, Defining the right set of knowledge sources is where you're going to spend the most time iterating on an agent. In the case of the FAQ agents, like the first one, the Customer Insights Assistant, that's tied directly to your knowledge sources. So if you wanted only external information, you would specify external websites. If you wanted only internal information, you would specify only internal websites. As I'll talk about in terms of best practices, for the most consistent results, I would start with a very narrow set of defined sources, and then you can expand over time as you test and validate. What I think is helpful is to think about your output. And if you establish the output is along the lines of what you'd like, you can then specify in the instructions to create a heading of internal sources and list that information, and external sources and list that. So agents can modify their behavior to make it more useful. There's really no limit to how you can improve the agents based on these templates using your imagination and testing. I've got 6 pro tips here. I'm going to start with the first one, still building on this concept of controlling knowledge sources, and a general term for that in AI is grounding. And that's the process of anchoring the responses in authoritative, contextually relevant data sources so that the output is accurate, trustworthy, and tailored to your environment. So one of the key benefits of using Copilot is you get all of the permissions automatically with M365. So when you run the agent, you'll have access to your data sources. If you share your agent, it doesn't automatically share your permissions. In fact, if you share a data source that another person doesn't have access to, it'll flag it for you. So you can then go and modify the permissions, say to a share that you've created, so that that person has access. But also that can flag it for you. If it's access to something that they shouldn't have access to, then you know there's a limitation to that agent for them. They still might be able to use it without that data source, but they're going to get different results. If you share an agent with your manager, say, and they have more access than you do, your manager has more access, then she or he might get different results because she'll have greater access. So I view that as a benefit, but it's something important for you to know, that it's taking full advantage of your M365 permissions, but also it's taking full advantage of the permissions, Outlook messages, and Teams conversations. That really adds a lot of depth and information. I'm constantly surprised by what the agents find when I'm running them, and I'll see like, oh, I had forgotten that conversation, or I forgot that document. So the grounding is super important, and it's a real benefit of M365 Copilot. Now, there are some limitations. For example, with a SharePoint file folder, it's only up to 100 files. So if you've got to share with 1,000 files, don't expect all of them to be included in the results. And take that into account for the design of your agent. You're doing something on, say, HR policies. You'll want to make sure that you only have the latest policies. You don't want old ones or drafts. You're going to find, the 100 definitive documents that summarize your HR policies, which should be enough. In terms of when Copilot goes out to a public website, it's going to go only to 4 URLs, and it's only going to go 2 levels deep in those URLs. So defining your sources and testing is very important. Okay, back to the pro tips. We've talked about the role and persona. That makes a big difference. In an HR agent, you may have a supportive tone, whereas perhaps for a legal bot, you might want to be more cut and dry, so there's less gray area. You can put these two together. So for example, you can add a line to any of these agents saying, create a McKinsey-style summary with 3 sections: insights, risks, and recommendations, just as an example. And there's other advanced techniques. For example, you can add instructions so that your agents show the user each step they're taking and how they reason over all the different sources of information, and that gives the user confidence in the response. Tip 5 is that when your agent produces a result, in my case, I asked for that summary of insights on Microsoft. Well, I could have then used chat and gone back and asked my agent to make the response more concise, or to rewrite it for an executive tone. Or I could have said, what questions should I ask the customer? So treat this agent as a collaborator and continue to refine on its responses. And then finally, modular and clear instructions. So I've pointed this out a few times, but I just created this slide using the travel planning agent as an example of each section. It's important that you structure your agent for two reasons. One is it helps Copilot. It also helps you or anyone else looking at this agent to improve it in the future. And at high level, you can use Copilot to help you learn how to use Copilot. So if you go through this process of building an agent, ask Copilot for help. You now know how to structure any questions you might ask. So you can ask for examples of each section that we just talked about in terms of your agent instructions. It can be your best source of information on how to build a great agent.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. This was great. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. And with that, see you next time. Bye.